Thank you to the 1000th power. Thank your way to gratitude through the magnificent power of being thankful, that is full of thanks, 1000 times every day. Manifesting a prosperous tomorrow by living in a positive now of daily gratitude. Living a life full of thanks, of that which I'm thankful. By Coach Stefan, Rudolph. Chapter 6. Mastering Observation. Retraining the mind to better understand how current thoughts, choices, and actions create future results. Developing the mindset of mastering tomorrow's outcome today. Being thankful day in and day out for every moment, every event, and every test in life, for life, through life, with life. I observed. I understood. I accepted. All of these steps began to lead to an unseen, unexpected abundance of growth. I grew now by knowing now that through a clear mind of observance of where I was in life, where I ended up in life, and what I had been through in life put me exactly where I needed to be in order to die from one life and grow into a new life. I obtained growth through the fuel of peace by beginning to live in peace through acceptance. Acceptance of growing from and through the obstacles in life that, at the time of occurrence, I felt stole my financial security and my financial peace in life. Yet now, through acceptance, from observation and retraining and refueling my brain with gratitude, my mind connected with the heart, and I accepted financial loss as complete and total spiritual gain. I accepted all of this change and began to use it through observance as the fuel for growth. I accepted it through the all-knowingness in me that I could be no other place better in life than where I was in life, here at rock bottom. I had to be here in order to grow from here and never end up back here. I knew I would be, I knew I could be, and I knew I should be somewhere else in life. But as far for now, right here, as now was perfectly where I needed to be, the here and where I ended up in life is where I was thankful in life. I lived in the now with appreciation for the now at this approximate moment as life began to shift in 2012 to 2013. I awoke, thankful to be alive. Here I began to find, use, and implement steps for being observant of all the positives in life versus all the negatives. I saw how a life fueled by negativity would put me right back to this temporary home I ended up here at this time in life called jail. Yet now, through observance, I saw that this was where I had to be in order to grow. This is where I needed to be in order to grow. And this is where I wanted to be in the here and the now in order to grow. This temporary encampment that kept me from being homeless was the place, the best place I could ever be in order to humble myself so I would never return to rock bottom again in life. This financial state of being dead broke is where I needed to be in order to achieve a state of accepting, being that of nothingness in order to become a being of happiness. And now, at this point, I was in a state of being completely accepting of everything around me, of which made me completely accepting of everything within me. I was accepting of who I had become in life that led me here. I was accepting of all the actions I took and mistakes I made that put me here. And I was accepting of the fact that in order to be able to master my outcome of tomorrow, I had to accept my income of today. that being my spiritual earnings, of which put me here in life for life. Here, I did so, and by doing so, I began to grow so. That being growing so much in 2013. Life became amazing. Even at the bottom, the ability to be alive, the ability to love life, and the ability to be in life, for life, with an awareness of life was literally amazing. I grew by being even more accepting of everything I had gained and worked for in life now being completely gone from my life. I was accepting overall of being bruised, battered, and scarred from my mistakes, my catastrophes, and my jail time. I was accepting of losing the life that led me here and accepting of the fact that this gave me a new life to live from here. I had to be cut down, broke down, and shattered down on all levels in life in order to humble myself to this new realization. And by doing so and being so, I was now able to see it and use it as fuel from which I would form into a new being, a new man, and grow into a new form of happiness. Quote, accept everything around you, and you will accept everything within you. Then you will change. Then you will grow. End quote. This quote, here and now, end quote, was my chosen state of placement for me that I was now able to label, quote, rock bottom, end quote. Here is where I chose to stop digging and began to use my experiences that led me here as lessons, as steps, and as fuel to grow in life. All this versus repeating the insanity as I always did in the first few decades of life up to this point. I was now able to see, learn, and live from the many years of excuses that led me here, that led me to this point in life, that led me to rock bottom. But now it felt good for me to say, I am going to stop digging and never do it again. I found out that when digging with the shovel of escapism in life, a true rock bottom is endless. I saw how rock bottom is not a destination, it's a choice. Now, through a new state of mind of observing with mastery, my rock bottom was welcomed. My failure became fuel, and my whys became hows. As now, my rock bottom was my fuel for growth. I told myself, quote, fuel your way to success, Stefan. Fuel your way to happiness. Fuel your way to humbling kindness for your new life and the lives of others and those around you. Observance of the here and now versus the where and when gave me strength of acceptance. This spiritual awakening gave me the ability to see thoughts of anger, rage, and vindictive blame as what they truly were in life. Repeat. This spiritual awakening gave me the ability to see thoughts of anger, rage, and vindictive blame as what they truly were in life, that being the fuel of addiction and escapism. If I lived in the where and when in life, that being where did I go wrong and when will this ever end, I could see now, though, that by living in this mindset, my chaos would never come to an end, and the answers to my calling would never show. My life would soon be over. This awakening was in and of itself a true spiritual awakening meant to save, renew, restart my life all over again. This tide of new waves and spiritual shift in my life now awoke a new tide of growth in my life, in my mind, fueled through the connectivity of the heart. All this done while eliminating the mouthful of excuses. In order for the passion of my heart to connect with the action of my mind, this mouthful of excuses from the past had to be shut up. It was the mouth of the old me and the old ego that wanted to live in blame, live in hardship, live in anger, live in regret, and live a life to my soon-awaited death. Yet now, at the rock bottom of life, spirituality never seemed so true as I was facing the end of my life. This being the end followed by a new beginning. A new beginning I could now see I had to be here in life in order to grow here in life. I knew that where I had to be was happy with where I exactly was at this time in life. I was here as I found in the word where, W-H-E-R-E. There was the word there, also had here. I began analyzing small things like this. Where was I? I need to be there. Yet both of these words both had the word here in them. I saw hidden meanings through my sobriety. I saw signs of how my life should be, how my life could be, and how my life would be when both of these words were observed with the here and the now. I put myself in that spot continually, through breath, through prayer, through awareness. Then I woke up. I never realized how this fact solely pertained to my growth until now. A growth fueled through observance, fueled through breath, fueled through acceptance, fueled through gratitude. Instead of wanting to be there and asking myself continually, where am I going? Where should I be? I lived in the here and lived in the now. Yes, even in jail and even at the worst times in my life over the next 2 years. I was developing the mindset of mastering the now and mastering my tomorrow's outcome today. Every next day in my past life of hungoverness was lived and followed through the fog and blurriness of the unknown. All this because I had no plans. I had no intent, and I had no means to grow. Without financial success in life, I was lost. Yet I knew this, quote, I, end quote, was the old me. And now, through a clear vision of my spiritual calling in life to sober up, get healthy, and grow in order to help others in my life down the road, I knew the ego, that being the past me, was now dead. Today, in the now, my boldness for a new appreciation of life has grown magnificently and abundantly and continues to grow daily. It grew as fuel for the seeds and sprouting stems in life that showed me a new light in life of endless possibilities. I had a new income to work towards now, this being the income of inner strength and inner growth for me and through me with awareness. I felt inner strength and control of thought. Thoughts that used to rule me were now no longer in control of me. Thoughts of stress, strife, and worry that I should be elsewhere were now simply acknowledged and passed by with thoughts of being now here. That being in the here and the now versus feeling lost and nowhere. This was a new relevant view in life. As for this new fact in life, that I could see my old views versus my new views now, was amazing to me. The clarity of sobriety began to click. I used my jail time in 2012 as time to focus on my personal growth, education, and classes. I used it as time to grow by stepping outside the box of the old me and seeing appreciation for where I was in life versus being dead and exiting this life. I experienced a profound awakening in this area as I saw new levels of life, new stages of life, and not just life as being one big roller coaster ride. Here in jail, I saw how the old me of the past 7 years was now literally dead. I could see how, if I went back to living that lifestyle just one more time, with just one more drink, and one more, oh, I can handle it, there would be no more life, and one less life on this earth. My life up to this point in 2012 was a lie when it came to feeling I could function off daily escapism through alcohol, through gambling, through partying. It was all escapism. Those that I saw, met, and became acquainted with during my chosen jail time were the best, quote, professors of the streets, end quote, for me that I could ever ask for. I was able to learn and grow from their street smart attitude, their street smart education, and everything about them when it came to drugs, alcohol, gambling, addiction, dealing, money, everything. They taught me the way of their life, and the way that ended them up in jail as well. They were professors for me as they taught me and showed me what life was like when living in this vicious cycle of insanity and denial. Now, it was all connected to growth. It was connected to growth because I saw it and I fought the past and opened my heart for the future. It was everything I needed to be alive again. It was also to the new me as I saw life through an open mind and an open heart. Now, it was abundance. It was happiness. Yes, even in jail, I no longer cared what other people thought of me. I cared specifically about my new life and what I was doing for me in order to grow. Quote, one new breath of life through observing life with the breath of gratitude saved me and gave me a whole new life. End quote. With breath came life, and with life came awareness of breath. Both connected deeply, as through awareness came the growth of gratitude. They now live together in me, for me, and through me, as they were fueled daily through gratitude and thankfulness. This being, quote, a thankful nest, feeding and growing the new being of my new self. Now, I was the one to blame for my mistakes. Now, I was the one to make gain from my mistakes. All this through the growth of humbling myself in order to be able to set out on a new journey of being able to live with heart. It was the old me versus the new me. Yet now the latter was in charge and in control of both areas in order to give inner blame and be able to use it as fuel to form inner growth. Here in jail, and here in death, and here in birth. Death of one life and birth of another. I, quote, mastered observation, end quote. I made observance a necessary daily step as the fuel for growth. A daily step that, over time, helped me eliminate blame, dilute anger, and cease rage in order to bring into existence a new form of love for life, the love for peace and quietness. Again, even in jail, this is where I learned, this is where I grew, and this is where I became this new being in my life. I knew I had to acknowledge failure in order to grow. If I didn't at this point, I knew beyond knowing that addiction would repeat, failure would follow, and death would be the end result. If failure kept its place in my life, the old me would fulfill its purpose of ending my life. Yet through the new me, death was not an option. But ending my old life was a necessary action. I chose to be in this world and chose to be in acceptance of this world that I had created versus leaving this world. I now have the ability to understand and expand that where I ended up at this point and where I was in life is where I was destined to be in life and should be in life in order to grow and in order to prosper. I had awakened the knowledge of knowing and the knowledge of being. That being a beginning of awokenness and awareness is what grew in me and through me at this point. I awoke to the realization that forming my life around others' beliefs, others' needs, and others' wants and desires for me to do what they wanted me to do was a very lost, draining path in life. I saw now by leading this path how it led to me feeling continually drained to the point of constant escapism. I did the math. Every time I drank, it was a form of escapism. It was never instituted in my life 20 years before, but grew into that daily. Escapism from life, through drinking heavily day in and day out, became my routine. I never saw it coming, never knew it had landed, but it took over my life. More was never enough. I was doing more, working more, making more money, and being more at times, all for someone else other than my true self. Because I was unable to connect the dots of thoughts with this true self, I was never truly happy in myself, through myself, for myself, as I was living in a lost self. I now had the ability to understand that where I ended up at this point and where I was in life is where I was destined to be in life and should be in life in order to grow and in order to prosper. I was never truly pleased, never truly satisfied, and never able to be truly thankful for anything in life until this life ended. That's what I found out in jail. That's what I found out in this transition. I wanted out. And I wanted out of my old, yet now I wanted in with my new. This is when and where I woke up. I woke up to the fact that I had this power. It had always been there, but it was diluted by alcohol for years, diluted by escapism. Yet now I woke to this fact and loved this fact that I had the power to change, the power to grow, and the power to be the ultimate being of a whole new life. All of this was fueled through the feeling in me and in my new self of being able to master observation. I realized here upon my, quote, clock in time, end quote, for my new life, that nothing was ever going to be the same. I realized that every time and everything I wanted back in life was actually holding me back in life from growth. I saw how, in the past, I wanted everything to remain the same. The money I made, the work I did, the drinks I drank, the life I lived, and the money I even lost, I wanted everything in the insanity of things to remain the same. I wanted this lifestyle back when I was fueled with alcohol. That was the insanity. I was lost, never to be found. Yet I now saw that by living in this daily mindset is what fueled narcissism. It's what fueled anger. It's what fueled blame. It's what fueled regret and fueled inner pain and turmoil to drink and escape in life through a mindset of victimization and why me-ism. I found that when the mind is able to link with the heart and turn the act into doing, this is called passion. And upon this discovery of passion and how to connect the dots of thoughts into action based on this passion, I began to reserve, preserve, conserve, and observe all the negative energy in life and turn it into growth. I did so by first being so in this moment of awareness as I fueled myself, my new self, with gratitude, of which was fueled through observation. I now saw that when the mind connects with the heart and begins to take action on what it truly believes in for life, this is a spark for a new fuel of desire that takes effect and sparks a whole new life. Right here and now, I began to observe and accept simplicity. I began to adhere to the fact that I must be content with plausible nothingness in order to be content with life. I began developing the ability to master observation and began being a being that was content with present breath, being a being content with slowing down and content with being thankful for healing and feeling. I had to be content with feeling that how I was and where I was in life was exactly how and where I was supposed to be in life. Through this battle grew newfound strength. This was a strength I never knew I had in me, yet a strength I found that we all have the ability to tap into our life through our new self. It's that point of starting over in life that we all go through and grow through at one point. Through battling the ego, I built the strength to see through its excuses and see through its reasoning what was holding me back from growth. I now told the ego to step aside, shut up, and watch me grow. I began to observe simplicity. I began to observe that through the power of my heart, I was able to begin to empower, master, and run the mind's choice to work with passion, stay in action, and content with love, and through love by connecting with heart and living with heart daily. This was a lost art that I may have had at one time or another in my life, but I had lost it. I had lost this art that now, when found in my new life, I saw that simplicity of life. That being the simplicity of how challenge and change can and will promote growth and happiness in life. How challenge and change should and could be used as fuel for growth. Even in my first moments of, quote, now, end quote, even when jail was my temporary forwarding address for where I lived, even when life had collapsed around me, my new home became my new place of birth for a whole new life. This idea came from this mindset. This mindset came from this heart set. This heart set came from gratitude and understanding that if I wanted to grow, I had to start over. I had to start over, and in order to start over, I had to retrain my mind how to better understand not only what put me here in jail, but exactly how my old mind was working against my heart and against my passion to grow. It didn't want out of this life. The old mind wanted to stay in. It battled to end this life completely. That was the scary thing. That was reality. I saw that an old mind fueled with alcohol daily wanted out of life. This was its old path of suicide. The entire life I had led 2, 3, 4+ years, coming to my ending point and my beginning point, was fueled by alcohol to end my life. The old me called me a failure. It called me a loser. It told me there was no way out. Give up. Drink again and again, until the end. That is what it told me. But instead of adhering to this madness, I simply began acknowledging the old mind and acting in the new mind. Once I began to understand this matter of fact, then I truly began to grow. I now saw at these moments in life, from 2013 to 2015, that through my transition and growth, I am awake. I am ready for change. I am ready for growth. I am a newborn man. I told myself over and over, I am awake. I am ready for change. I am ready for growth. I am a newborn man, ready for a whole new life. I saw that I was a new born-again man in life now, and I loved it. The hardest years of my life were the best years of my life, for one main cause, that being a memory. I could remember what I had been through and what I had gone through since sobriety. Days and nights were a blur with alcohol. A life fueled with alcohol was a life forgot through alcohol, and a life nearly ended by alcohol. I now saw that I had to forgive myself once again. Over and over, I now saw through clarity how the fuel of forgiveness, the fuel of positivity, the fuel of acceptance, and the fuel of change were all part of what led me here in order to fuel growth and fuel life. Quote, of that which I'm thankful. I began saying this and living by it daily. Now I started retraining my mind and reprogramming my brain. I started implementing and focusing on a path to better understand choice of thoughts, choosing wisely the thoughts we act upon, as these are the thoughts we become and the results we live in life and follow in our life. I realized through myself that, quote, in order to do so and be so, you must first fuel so through heart. Fuel so through heart, end quote. And I told myself, and now instructed and asked my new self, quote, find your passion. What am I most passionate about in life? What do I want to wake up to daily and be fired up to do every day? End quote. I had to take a deep leap of faith. A leap from being one being that was stagnant for so many years to a being of knowing and believing that where I was leaping from and leaping to is a whole new life. Take the leap of faith. I passionately began instructing myself this daily. Take the leap of faith. I had to not partially believe, but fully believe that there are good things coming just around the corner for me in life. Maybe things I couldn't see in the moment of now, but they were things that I could believe in. I believed with power and fueled myself with faith and passion that I had never had before in my life, and I had never held ever in the past. Repeat. I believed with power and fueled myself with passion that I would never be held back again by the thoughts and feelings of others. The others who said I could not do it, the others who said I was a loser and could never change and would never succeed. Yet I saw through them now and began developing the ability to use their views and their feelings as fuel. That being the fuel for growth. That being a note to the naysayer. Don't ever stop not believing in me. Don't ever stop looking down on me. Don't ever stop believing that the growth that I will achieve will not be achieved. I wrote in my diary. I wrote in my life book. I wrote in my goal book. I wrote in everything about how I had to use this fuel as growth. These were others that deep down inside did not want to see me succeed. I saw it now. I lived it now. For if I did succeed, they would then see that it was possible to come back in life and actually change and actually grow. They would be looking in their own mirror of their life at their true self that was holding them back. That was their problem. I was not their problem. My success and growth were going to be their problem now in my holy shift point in life. Quote, there is no way out of your old life unless you believe in growth in a new life. You must implement change and work hard daily and first believe in order to see. End quote. I had to understand how the results of my current situation at this time in my life were not the fault of others. It came from, quote, my, end quote, choices of, quote, my, end quote, thoughts, which led to, quote, my, end quote, results. No one else. It came from a pattern of neglect. Neglecting my health through alcohol, neglecting ever clearing my mental mindset for health through alcohol. Neglecting life through constant denial and escaping life from any possibility of a healthy lifestyle through alcohol and gambling. Neglecting my emotional well-being through constant escapism in life. Neglecting my true life and the lives around me, all through years of denial and years of not taking the steps to change and grow. Here now, I could hear now. I could hear my past calling. For the first 3 years of my sobriety, I heard my past calling me back. But now, I was no longer answering. The calls that rang loud in my head for years, these being the calls for the beers, the calls for the tears, the calls for the fears, the calls of which I answered with each and every time. Now, I was no longer answering. I could see if I ever answered these calls again, the beginning to my end would begin. Yet from here, in this present moment of now, I could see how this new mindset of awakening and understanding could help me grow in life. I could see how blaming less could, would, and will continually lead to gaining more in life. Gaining more both inside and out. I could see how proactively handling the connection with the past and disconnecting from it was key. I saw now at this time how having the ability to disconnect or, quote, hang up on calls, end quote, from the past me was the key element for growing up and moving on. This was a past me that wanted to suck the new back in. This was a past me that wanted to suck the new back in. The past me that was requesting the new me to continue to escape and constantly remain in and live in my past. Yet through this newfound clarity and observation, I was able to retrain the mind to power the brain to no longer live in the past. This was a past where I continually drank and passed out, but I needed to now live in a soulful and growing state of gratitude, of that which I did, and of that which I was thankful. I could see now how to connect the dots of thoughts and put the pieces of the puzzle together from my past life's decisions and how they led to my present situation during 2012. Clarity and gratitude helped fuel my new vision in order to disconnect emotions and actions from my past that continued to bring me back to drinking. From here, I worked on not completely forgetting the past, but not living in it. Instead, to blossom from the seeds of knowledge and growth it gave me. I had lived in the past for so long that the past was continually my present, and the present was therefore my ever-revolving future, that being insanity. Instead, now by owning the moment of now and winning the very present moment of life, I began to learn from it and grow from it. This by forgiving myself, forgiving others where applicable, and moving on and growing on into the existence of this whole new life of love and abundance that awaited me. Quote, in life, through less blame, there will be more gain. End quote. Sure, I could blame others for the difficulty that life gave me along the way. I was an expert at it in the final years of my old life. But that is what put me in jail and added to losing my old life. Yet now I saw it, now I lived it, and now I knew it, and now I accepted it. And what I knew most now through observation was that I wanted to live and no longer wanted to die. As a matter of fact, this life-altering, life-changing, and life-ending experience felt like death, literally and figuratively. Everything I did for years is what put me here now in tears. Tears for losing my life and tears for ending up in jail. Yet now, the new me woke up. It woke up and stopped blaming and started gaining. I woke up to the fact that now it was much easier to leave the past behind by leaving the blame behind. At this point, I learned right here and right now in life, with less blame, there is more gain. And with less blame in my closet of life, there was more room to grow in life. I felt at this very moment the weight of blame lifted from my shoulders. This was a huge burden that had gone and left me. Now I was ready to grow. Lifted were the past weights of burden and regret I carried for years. Fallen was a past life, and presented to me was a new life. I accepted all of the above. The past with forgiveness and the future with hope. I accepted it with love. I accepted my past mistakes that brought me here and used them as fuel for growth. I was ready to learn from life, ready to earn another life, and ready to grow into my next life. Quote, life will put you where you are today until you change and begin putting yourself where you want to be tomorrow. End quote. There was now room to focus on understanding that the decisions and actions, or lack of actions thereof, in my past led to my self-destruction. Yet in a crazy meant-to-beism scenario, I now saw them as meaningful nothingness. This being the nothingness that my life was about is exactly what I needed to be in order for me to wake up to where I was supposed to be all along. It led me where I now saw I needed to be in order to grow. It led me to jail time, it led me to homelessness, it led me to near death. Now, my tomorrow had arrived and I woke up. I could see, feel, and now live the connection through this new awareness. An awareness based on the spiritual awakening of which I had just shifted through and grew through in life, beginning from the moment of once again nearly losing my life. If I kept blaming others, if I kept holding resentment for people in my past life, such as my biological father for not wanting me in his life, if I kept blaming him and others like him in my life for the emotional hatred that I had developed toward life overall, my life would be over and I would be dead. Dead from alcohol, dead from escapism, dead from blaming, and dead from not being able to step up to the plate of life and face life head on. Just as my accidental awakening had occurred from my head-on collision in an automobile, I had a new life ahead of me based on that same collision. Yet now I looked at it in a positive manner, as this was a new life. This versus going head-on while drunk driving again and finalizing that path of my destiny by killing myself next time I drank, next time I drove. This next time will be my last time. I would kill myself and possibly even kill others. Scared straight is what I became. In my first few years of sobriety, and especially in the first few months, I saw how I fueled daily in a subconscious state of never truly knowing how much anger and hatred I lived in toward one person in my life, my biological father. It was covered in a continual blur of fog for years from alcohol due to my inability to face up to life. Yet now, as sobriety entered my life and my heart connected with my mind, I found true clarity at this time as I mastered observation through a sober mindset. I began my own, quote, master's degree, end quote, course in observation by mastering the art of stillness of the mind. This being through stillness, I achieved through meditation and connecting the heart with the mind and eliminating in between the mouth full of excuses. Here I was able to settle with stillness and quiet the mouth full of chatter, hush the mouth full of blame, all the while rid the mouth of any further gossip and comparison, all of which I saw now was placed into effect by the ego in order to detour growth. That is what it was doing in my past. Here I mastered stillness through forgiveness. I mastered stillness through prayer. I mastered stillness through sympathy. Understanding and a new clarity fueled my observation. This is what I had to do in order to be the new me. Forgive, pray, and have sympathy for what I went through and sympathy for those that were not there in my life along the way. I had to have a better understanding with new clarity that was fueled by this observation and fueled by my sobriety, that this was all connected and all meant to be in my life. Yes, in the here and in the now, I knew this growth was inevitable. I began to grow with each breath. Less blame, more gain. I saw how it wasn't my biological father's fault for not wanting me back in his life, yet nor was it my fault for being born, being on this earth, and having a life. This fuel of unknowingness for an answer to, quote, why, end quote, continued to be the main component of fuel for escapism deep down inside. Now, this was not his fault. Deep down inside, this was my fault for not being able to recognize it, not being able to deal with it, not being able to face it, and always continually choosing alcohol to escape from it. There was no one to blame. It was simply a part of love from the art of love that I lacked in life and now found I could have in life. I could have it, I could be it, and I could achieve it by observing how love for myself was the main specific fuel component of life. Love of the loveless is what I saw it as now. Quote, lovelessness from others should never detour you from loving yourself. Love yourself first, and true love shall follow. Look within in order to look without. Without blame, love will follow. End quote. In my first 1 to 3 years of sobriety, a certain and specific fuel of anger boiled in me and ran through me off and on when specific, yet now clear, thoughts ran through my head. It was all new to me and helped me once again connect the dots of thoughts to better understand the reasoning behind being held as a, quote, past mistake, end quote, that my biological father now regretted. It was very difficult to understand when there was zero communication between us, as response to efforts to connect us was null and void. I never knew how the feelings of regret and even hatred would come up if and when my half-siblings found out about me in his life. I was a past mistake for nearly 4 decades back, a past mistake that now existed and wanted back in his life and the life of a family I felt I so needed at this time. But again, now at this point in my life, as I entered and grew further in sobriety and therefore began mastering observation, I was able to acknowledge, separate, and grow from hatred and resentment by fueling it with love, compassion, understanding, forgiveness, and even sympathy. This was a huge shift once again in my life, as I could see how letting others in your head and in my head, even when they weren't there in my life and your life, would and could dominate, rule, and wreck your life as it wrecked my life. These thoughts were initially a hatred that boiled in me daily, especially in my jail time and especially in my first year of sobriety. It boiled hot and heavy, specifically when I found out that the siblings who knew nothing about me during their first 20 plus years of life, truthfully and honestly wanted nothing to do with me when they did find out about my existence in 2008. Repeat, it boiled hot and heavy, specifically when I found out the siblings who knew nothing about me during their first 20 plus years of life, truthfully and honestly wanted nothing to do with me when they found out about my existence in 2008. The pain of, quote, why, end quote, was a huge part of the existence of the burden on my shoulders. Quote, why don't they want to see me? What did I do? Am I a horrible person that should never have existed? Am I a mistake? If it was something I did, I don't know what it was, so how could I ever resolve it? End quote. I saw later how the proclivities of false-natured stories put forth a horrible image in their minds to see me as evil, treacherous, and no one they wanted to contact. Therefore, from the time I reconnected with the maker of us as siblings in 2007, of which were during my heaviest drinking days, up to the point of nearly 1 year later, my numerous attempts to connect with the fellow maker of my life then ran dry. Attempting to connect for a beer and have a simple meeting of father and son as I saw it made it more difficult to accept than anything in life when the answer to my inquiries was simply the same. Silence. Nothingness. No response. Once again, during this 2007 to 2008 time period, death knocked ever so loudly at this time on the door of my life. Yet still, I held forth the necessary strength to deny answering. I simply desired the truth to be told and to be able to meet the ones that were biologically connected as my family. My desire, need, and want for family love from them and with them turned into what I found out later was hatred toward me for stories they believed, but never bothered to confirm with me on the level of truth. To hold me in an ignoring, non-sympathetic state of life from their own minds' views without even knowing me or meeting me was initially the main fuel for hatred that I so divinely swallowed daily through alcohol. Yet in the still moment of now, upon my sobriety, I began to ponder this thought process in a whole different manner. This manner known as understanding and forgiveness. I began to observe with courage that this past hatred was not a blame on someone else, but was a choice. The hatred and the fuel that it gave me was my choice. The choice of action to drink. The old me had fueled me with blame, and this choice was my reason to drink. The choice of action to be in and live in a state of anger, and the choice of action to not grow from it and grow out of it, it was all my fault. I saw now that if I continued to choose hatred, I could just as easily choose love. Now, with a clear mind, connected with a fully fueled heart, I did so, I became so, and I grew so by loving so. That being loving life. Here, I chose love. In my own mind, I existed as a son, and I existed as a brother. But in the mind of others, there was no other brother they ever wanted to meet. I found I was non-existent. I accepted this fact and began to love this fact as I felt, knew, and fueled myself with love, knowing that it would add to growth. I loved this fact for what it was and what it would be, as what it was doing for me was positive growth through acceptance. A now unchangeable fact is how I saw it. As well, it was unchangeable to the fact that it was in my past, as to hear my life creator tell me that it'll be hard on them to tell them they have a brother. End quote. No other meaning of pain hurt so deeply in my mid-30s when I found out they knew nothing about me. At this point, life became pointless. I had experienced loss of money, loss of all material items, loss of love, and loss of nearly all my previous relationships in life due to alcohol. All this combined with the now new pain of not being able to receive love when most needed in my life from a lost connection of family members. All these events, happenings, and barriers of growth in my life made for a destructive behavior and lifestyle as I saw my life as a loveless mistake. I felt I needed to exit immediately of that which I did daily, yet all through alcohol. Abandonment issues were fueled by alcohol now at this time and grew from being ignored, misled, and mislabeled to my fellow biological family members. Yet blame for alcoholism, addiction, and escapism would get me nowhere. This is what I learned. This is what I lived. And this is where I ended up multiple times repeating my same education process, educating myself on how to take the blame for ending up at rock bottom, swallow my pride, end the old me, and begin the new me. That is the steps. That is the pattern. That is the new me. Here I saw again and again that it was no one else's fault but mine. The response of nothingness from the giver of my genes may have been a reason to drink, but was not a reason to blame and not a reason to end my life, fueled by the tank of alcohol. If I blamed him if I blamed others, and if I blamed life, I could see clearly at this point I would lose my life. The one to blame was the man in the mirror. You are to blame, Stefan. You are to blame. Get up, look up, and grow up. This is what I repeated because it was me. I accepted this fact and made it a matter of fact in my heart and in my mind. In the end of my drinking, upon my awakening, I found that my life was not a mistake, nor was anyone, anything, or any circumstance that occurred to lead me to where I ended up. I saw it at this time that by using pain as gain, my past mistakes became my fuel for growth. And when watered and nourished daily through forgiveness, they became the seeds for a whole new life. This was nourished and flourished as I sought and fought for a new life through true steps, true ways, and true means for me to take this new route and in order to grow and in order to blossom. Repeat. This was nourished and flourished as I sought and fought for a whole new life. A life that through these steps, true ways, and true means for me to take this new route in order to grow and in order to blossom, all was possible. By November 2012, in the Vista Detention Facility in Vista, California, as I was locked up for my 4th DUI in 10.5 years, the true maker of my new life came to light. I prayed, and I prayed hard during this 6-week period and during this 1,000 hours of much-needed jail time in my life. Here, I felt a release. Here, I had to take in the Father above in order to replace the Father below. Both did not exist in my life physically, yet the one that showed me a new light in life existed in my heart through love. I grew by learning the root cause for me being held as nothingness was that it was simply one man's choice to do so and to be so to another man. The latter man here had to learn from it and grow from it in order to transform from it into a new man on this path. This was neither right nor wrong of the former man in this case, but simply a choice and a decision for him to feel so and do so without being so. This being so, meaning lacking the ability to step up to the plate, step up to face the child he created, and step up to communicate and talk to the man he formed with strength through his non-existence. I had to accept the fact that I was seen as a mistake, yet also accept the all-knowingness that one man's view of my mistake, of me being a mistake, can and will be another man's view of a soulful destiny to help others in life. I had to accept this fact as a matter of fact in the mind and heart of another and release with forgiveness the past in order to grow in the future. Quote, I am myself, like you somehow. I'll ride the wave where it takes me. I'll hold the pain. Release me. Eddie Vedder, from the song Release. This step of acceptance helped me to not take it personally. It helped me to see through the fog and feel with forgiveness that these feelings, choice, and actions, or lack thereof, were not, quote, my, end quote, feelings, nor were they, quote, my, end quote, emotions. Therefore, I had no influence on changing them. Even with love and even with persistence, acceptance, acceptance was my only option for growth in life. I learned this fact. I felt this fact. I began living this fact by giving him space, giving him respect, and accepting his choice and his action for what it was in my life. That simply being his choice to release me as a son to the world of my own. This is how and where I saw in my past life my world was created. I had created my own world without knowing or planning what I wanted my world to be like. It was only influenced by drinking, influenced by anger, and influenced in the end by another, as I was not in control of my heart. I then began to see at this point in the big picture and scheme of my life that by constantly pushing others to be a part of my life, constantly pulling others to let me in their life, and constantly seeking love from the loveless when it came to their feelings of my life, all led to a path of continual self-destruction. It did so in my past. It was doing so up to this point in my present. And at this time, I now saw so and became so to the fact that it would continue to evolve and revolve in my future. It would continue as a pattern of insanity, which would produce more hatred, more chaos, more blame, more anger, and eventually less life, followed by death. I saw it now. Quote, "Observe with courage, face life, face obstacles, and face the place you are now in life in order to grow in life. Grow now with the fuel of courage." End quote. Now, with this pattern of acceptance through observance, came forgiveness. In this still moment of now that I began to find through sobriety, came with it clarity and forgiveness. I now found through a new clear mind that I could observe with courage. I could now understand and accept with strength these decisions and actions that this man who partook in this creation of me as a human being wanted to take to avoid letting my half-siblings know I even existed. To find the state of non-existence in the mind of a family member and other family members was difficult to deal with in my time of weakness. Weakness to alcohol, weakness to addiction, and weakness to escapism. Yet still, I learned later how this fueled the new me to grow boundlessly to all new levels. Levels of strength and achievement that I grew to on my own for the first time were all fueled through the strength of the experience of being set free. This was the best experience that the past could hand me. By the past passing on and not being there for me, this helped me grow into a strong present and look forward with confidence into an even stronger future. I never existed to my siblings, and now, through clarity and in sobriety, observed the insanity I was in when it came to wanting someone in my life that did not want me in their life. It was not actions or choices I would take now, but through clarity, it was understanding and acceptance I would make now. Instead of forcing something I felt I needed, I had to accept something that was given. Needing and wanting attention and love from others will only eventually lead to pain. I saw that and felt it for years in my life. Acceptance and respect for their feelings would lead to healing. And it then did so by doing so in my life. The pain hurt, but the new spirit of growth in me was now stronger. It was now me, the new me. I could feel it. I accepted who I was in my past with the ability to grow from my mistakes now. And as I shifted and grew through clear, thoughtful, sober-mindedness, the pain became gain. It did so by being so, and made me so grateful. Now, being connected with the here and the now of self-love and my love for the new life I had, I began to grow. Yes, that of loving my new self, putting my old self on the shelf, and bargaining with life just one last time for one last shot. This gainful moment and gainful shift in my life came from that of me being so connected now with life that I then began to grow. During this time, I mastered observation through the apparent facts that, quote, "This is a test of the emergency spiritual growth system. This is only a test." I accepted this test and loved this test for what it did to me and accepted for what it was doing for me. By partaking in forgiveness and combining it with hard work, I knew that no one would hold me back. Whether my biological maker cared for me or not, loved me or not, or even thought about me at all at this point in my life or not, he was called my father at one time in my life. He who was called my father at one time in my life was now gone. Physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually from my life. In my mind's eye, this acceptance and deletion process through forgiveness is exactly what I needed to grow. The new me needed love from the loveless in order to grow and in order to flourish. This loveless was the old me, watching the new me form into existence and taking over the driver's seat in life, pushing aside the old me, saying, "Step aside, I'm ready to grow now." I began through and grew through developing an unconditional love of living through death and loving the formation of this whole new life. This life being formed by my new self had to be sought through and fought through against the old self in order to grow. I now saw what that meant in AA meetings and other programs, as I now saw the psychology they discussed in these meetings where, quote, the devil is doing push-ups on your shoulder, just waiting for you to drink again, end quote. Therefore, I knew by continually observing thoughts, living in awareness, and being still in the, quote, moment of now, end quote, when it came to dealing with emotions, my goal of sobriety, growth, and oneness with the new me would soon be achieved. It was a continual and ever-revolving goal of growth of this, quote, new me, end quote, I would never give up on. I then chose to take and make the necessary steps a reality and thereby develop the mindset of mastering tomorrow's outcome today. I was ever so lucky to be alive, yet now ever so forgiving. That being forgiveful of the, quote, past me, end quote, for trying to kill me. I had cheated death so many times and had now lived to tell about it. Even when I began telling it to others in jail for the first time, I saw how this story was a benefit of inspiration for telling and motivating others. Yet during the here and the now in jail, and even in and through the first 3 years of sobriety, I took no motivation in letting others know how I destroyed my life. I only told those in jail because I knew their life, many times over, was much worse than mine. I felt at that time I fit in. In a weird, crazy way, it felt good, though, to get it off my shoulders and talk to people about it. During this time, the first 3 years of my sobriety, I became very hard on myself. I told myself, what a loser. You lost this life. You lost the ultimate American dream. You're a loser. End quote. Day in and day out, this came out in different ways and different patterns and different thoughts and different actions. That is how my old drunk ego saw me, though. It defined me this way and continually battled to categorize me to the new me, that being my new sober self, as a loser. Yet this new sober self didn't want to take it. Upon my awakening point in life, I knew through mastering observation that if I continued following this old path, my tomorrow's outcome would never change, and I would remain living in a shrouded misery of a shattered life, ruined on the outside, ruined on the inside, and ruining my life on the outside. But through the new fuel of courage that I found in humility and humbling myself, I could see that even when I told my story in jail, it gave motivation to not give up on life and began helping others as well. Here I developed the mindset of mastering tomorrow's outcome today, and through awareness, I grew. I grew by no longer letting blame be an option. It wasn't right. I could not blame the man who donated my life for his decisions, his actions. I could not blame the man who donated my life for his decisions, his actions, or lack thereof when it came to loving his son, and I could no longer blame him for who I had become in my life. At this point, all blame must go inward, I told myself. That was just it. It was my life. That's a fact. And I saw by seeing this as a fact, the blame had to go inward and not outward. It was my fault because it was my life. And in order for me to grow, I had to accept this fact. This life was my life, no other life, and therefore no one else was to blame but me for where I was in life, at the bottom. Quote, why and how, therefore, should I blame him? End quote. I now ask myself, as gone was the past, gone was the blame, gone were the excuses that diluted my future with failure and prevented any and all growth for years. From past emotions of fury and anger toward him, my new self now began to grow with observation and forgiveness toward him as I traveled this new path I was on. I observed with courage how all these negative emotions were construed by my old self with intent to prevent growth of my new self. I now awoke with a newfound sympathy, compassion, and understanding that he was the man he was in life and the father he had been to others, but not to me. Forgiveness fueled growth again and again. I had to repeat this fact. I had to live this fact. I had to love this fact because this was it. It was actually very simple and easy. Move on and grow on in life. That's what I had to say, and that's what I had to do. Each day and each step I took in this area gave me the strength to live another day in 1% more gratuity to be alive. If I kept feeling and fueling myself with hatred toward him and toward others in life, even when he wasn't there in my life, I knew I would never win in life, of which I knew as well I would soon die in life. This was a profound empathic shift in my heart, mind, and soul as I mastered observation in life. When negative thoughts used to bring me down, they so easily and unrecognizably snuck into my mind and lived in my mind continually without any type of soulful awareness to combat. Yet now my heart fueled my mind, and through the fuel of love, I developed observance and acknowledgement to the fact that they were in my mind. I developed acknowledgement to the facts of what they would do in my mind for my life. And by doing so and being so, once recognized, they were then replaced by positive thoughts and affirmations. Here, through the connectivity of soulful awareness, I began repeating this process daily. Alcohol was not to blame for my actions, nor where I ended up. But alcohol was simply a slow-burning fuel for excuses all through my past life. It was a slow-burning fuel of blame. It was a slow-burning fuel that trained my life into failure. In the past, I chose to drink. I chose to escape, and I chose to let my decision-making patterns be obstructed by alcohol. Alcohol was the fuel for blame. Alcohol was the fuel for hatred. Alcohol was the fuel for anxiety, hostility, and living in a blurred state of vision in life. Alcohol initially was the way for me to celebrate life. But then, as it worked its deadly magic as it does in the lives of millions of others, alcohol was to blame for me not seeing with the necessary true clarity in order to develop love in life. It shrouded any evidence and reason to love anyone or any part of life. It blocked and blurred my vision of true love in life, for life, through life, with life. So I decided right then and there on life. I decided to face it head on and live it. I decided to love it. I decided to be a part of it. I did so by deciding so to lose all the negative views I lived with in my past life. That being loss of all blame and loss of all ties to excuses. I did so by eliminating the aforementioned delusion of living in an alcohol-induced lifestyle and forcing myself to continually try and see it as a positive party of fun. I eliminated the excuse of alcohol and faced life for what it was worth, that being a life worth living now. Here I decided to move forward and grow by living life through and with forgiveness. The proficient giver of life amid my birth into this world was not going to win. Yet nor was hatred. Dual use of negative variants such as hatred and resentment formed a double-edged sword that would kill me. I was not going to let a human being that had not seen me in nearly 20 years cause my demise in life, and eventually in my life by not even being in my life. To the new me, this was ridiculous. Finding fault in another and blaming excuses of my failure on others was a series of faults that led to my life's collapse. And now, through awakeness and awareness, and by mastering observation, I knew if I kept doing what I was doing, I would keep feeling as I was feeling and never stop living how I was living until I died. Luckily, the evening of my final drink and my hopeful and soulful awakening in 2012, hatred's path toward working on achieving my death was uncovered and had run its course. It was a hatred in me that I never knew, as for years it took camouflage through alcohol. Alcohol, which caused excuses, caused blame, and in the end caused a tremendous amount of anger. Anger initially toward others, but now anger toward myself for not waking up sooner. I had wasted a wonderful marriage, I had wasted a wonderful life, I had wasted a wonderful path of tremendous growth and opportunity. From start to finish, within 3 years, I lost everything financially, and within another 7 years, everything was gone, and I was nearly dead. Yet here, I woke up and knew what I had to do. From here, excuses left my band of arsenal that were used for so many years, through so many beers and so many tears in fighting life. In the end, I now saw how excuses were fuel for such feelings as anger and resentment. I saw how excuses were used to blame in order to shame. I saw how excuses were used to blame in order to avoid shame. I could see now and feel now how I actually needed to accept shame and fuel myself with it. Yes, fuel myself with shame. This meaning through a path of humility and leading a soulful, humble life, I would actually grow. I had to study and relive my past. I had to study and relive my life of past mistakes and fuel my new self with an understanding that shame is better than blame. Shame is better than blame. As from shame, I accepted my mistakes. I took responsibility for my actions and humbled myself, my old self, in order to let go of the past and let the new self take over and grow in the future. I now saw upon this awakening how I had kept being the being I no longer wanted to be for so many years, through so many beers, and once again through so many tears, all through fueling my escape from life through alcohol. In doing so, I now saw so. I now did so, and I now became so. I became a new being of health, wellness, and clarity in order to never again avoid facing life. I knew right here, right now, I would take action to be the being I'd always wanted to be. I had to do so by making the shift mentally, emotionally, and spiritually to take action and make it change to begin to make a new life. I knew at this jail time point, then and there at this time of my last accident as well, during my last DUI and my last drink, it was actually once again no accident. It was what I needed in order to accidentally awake. If I kept doing what I was doing, my life would be over. Physically, I would be dead. Now, the more I saw this, the more I accepted it, and the more blessed to be alive I became. From here, I had to live in this new soulful awareness of observation when it came to, quote, the old me, end quote, trying to drag me down and working its hardest daily to kill the new me. I therefore began retraining my mind to better understand how all my past thoughts and lifestyle patterns continued to lead me where I ended up, back in jail. I had to retrain my mind to choose thoughts wisely and choose the path I was headed down with precautions and understanding that, quote, my thoughts create my reality. So choose thoughts wisely, Stefan. Choose and act upon them wisely. End quote. With strength through daily awareness, I knew and grew from the fact that I instilled in my mind daily, quote, I would never be held back by others. I would never be held back by their thoughts and feelings of me ever again in life. End quote. From my jail release date of November 20th, 2012, to getting my ankle bracelet off in April of 2013, I began to choose wisely that of my friends, that of my associates, that of my comrades, and that of my goals, of which developed in life. I had to be careful who I surrounded myself with in life. I saw this through this newfound awareness. I saw that the new me, of which was the true me in life, needs to use these thoughts and feelings as lessons, as steps, and as fuel for growth in life. Observe with courage. I began repeating this quote daily to myself. Observe with courage. I said it louder, and I said it with profound confidence. Observe with courage, Stefan. Have the courage to face it in order to erase it. That being my past, of what I had been holding me back from growth for so many years, I had to say this over and over again. Observe with courage. Have the courage to face it in order to erase it. I had to develop and implement the mindset of mastering tomorrow's outcome today. I did so and remain doing so by being thankful daily, day in and day out, for every moment, every event, and every test that life gave me. Now, I began using it as fuel in order to grow, all through mastering observation.